What's going on, guys? Lucas Jensen here, back with another episode of the Forward Thinking Podcast. And today I got Daniel Honan, founder of Bookkeeping for Painters. Daniel, what's up, dude?
How's it going? Happy to be here, Lucas. Appreciate the invite.
Happy to have you, man. So you're in Orlando right now, hey?
I am. It's beautiful. Beautiful. I think you're in Canada, right? So it's probably terrible weather, I'm assuming.
You know what? Actually, right now is on the downfall. Summer is beautiful here. I'm in Montreal, Canada. So it's like the
Okay.
French side of Canada. So it's like throughout the summer, we have like Formula One and all these like cool events happening, and the weather's beautiful. It's like a very like humid hot though. So it's like a wet hot. But then right now it's like gray skies, it's getting cold. And dude, I'm jealous about Florida, man. Right around
Yeah.
this time of year is when I start looking.
Yeah. If the temperature gets below like 65, I can't handle it anymore. I'm a pansy when it comes to that. So yeah.
Yeah, dude, skin gets all like dry and nose gets runny. It's no fun. Definitely not fun. So how long you been in Orlando for?
I've been in Orlando for about 6 months, or was it September? So 8, 9 months. Yeah, we were in Nicaragua beforehand, but we just moved back to the States.
So was your company fully based in Nicaragua, or were you just living there?
I was just living there with my family. I got a wife and 4 kids now, so we were just living it up, and going to the beach every day. Really beautiful there. Super cheap cost of living. It's also a good tax strategy play. But then we decided to come back to the States. Yeah, it was a good time while it lasted.
Dude, that's sick. So did you relocate your business now and you're based out of Orlando, Florida, or like how did that kind of whole transition happen?
Okay. Well, I have a remote team throughout the U.S. and so we were never really in a physical location because we work with folks across the U.S. and Canada too. And so we just moved to Nicaragua for a few years and ran it remotely from there.
That's so cool, man. That's so cool. So when did where were you from originally?
I was born in California, moved to North Carolina, went to college, did the College Works painting internship in North Carolina.
Oh, no
Got my
way. That's
yeah,
cool.
got my degree in accounting while running a painting business, and was in the military for about 13 years. And during that time, I was also running a painting business. I started Bookkeeping for Painters back in 2016, and so I've been working with hundreds of painting businesses since then. Worked with 300 plus painting businesses from startup to 10 million in revenue, and over the last 8+ years, helping folks know their numbers and save big in tax.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah, because that was actually going to be my next question of like, obviously, like I'm in a very niche specific thing. You know, we do marketing for painters, but bookkeeping for painters is super niche. Like you must not have like competitors. Like I feel like it's so specific, man, and it's so awesome, but you're just dominating the market, dude.
Yeah, we obviously there's other accountants that serve painting businesses, but I don't know of any that serve painting businesses exclusively. I'm not aware of any. So yes, we have a deep understanding of the painting industry, what your numbers, what your margins should be, all the apps that painting businesses use, Drip Jobs, Paint Scout, how to integrate it with QuickBooks Online, and all the tax strategies that are most beneficial for painting businesses. So yeah, we're very intimately familiar with painting businesses and how to best serve them. So it's a good relationship because we can provide a lot of value to painting businesses, and it's also efficient for us, from a business perspective, like because we know what their situation is.
For sure, for sure. And I think just naturally, like the trades industry, it's like a very pen and paper type of industry. So you're kind of professionalizing that and having everything documented and helping them, grow through their stages of, business and all that. So I think it's an awesome thing that you're doing. I have an accountant in Canada, and dude, it is an absolute game changer. Like bookkeeping, everything, just being able to know my numbers, like P&Ls, balance sheets, all that stuff. And like, I'm sure like the amount of support and value you're able to provide to your clients is just like unreal. Like the amount of clarity they get from knowing their numbers is just insane.
Yeah, that's the two big promises is knowing your numbers and what they mean, and then saving big in tax. So yeah, it's You just check out our Google reviews, what folks are saying. But yeah, that's our goal, is to make sure that you know where you are, where you stand. We set up like a dashboard so you can see like what your numbers are coming in from QuickBooks Online, but also port in numbers from like drip jobs by using Zapier, or Paint Scout or Job or whatever you're using. So you kind of have a holistic picture of your business. And then we do internal benchmarking so you can see how your numbers compare to other painting businesses of the same size. And then also you can plug in your own goals so you can see, okay, here's where I stand now, and here's, am I on track or off track compared to my goals? And then we, meet with you each month, go through the numbers and say, okay, here's where you are, here's where you need to go. For example, yesterday just met with a new client, came on board. They were suffering from kind of lower gross profit. And just for, if you're listening, not knowing what gross profit is, basically, revenue is your top line, what you get from your customers, the payments you get from your customers. And then you have everything it costs to produce the project. So that would be your labor, like painters on the job site, and then your materials. So those direct costs, you subtract that from the revenue to get your gross profit margin. And usually that's stated as a percentage of revenue. So that's what I mean when I say 35% gross profit. So their gross profit was kind of low, below average. Usually average gross profit for a painting business is around 40 to 45%. So they're below average on their gross profit. And so this is like a key number to make sure that you're profitable overall, is ensuring you have a 45% gross profit or higher. And so we're digging into, okay, what's the problem? And so we looked at the way they were pricing, and basically they were doing the right thing with their labor. They basically took their average painter cost was $25 an hour. They're adding burden in there about 30%. So they're basically $32 per hour cost to them. And then they were doubling that, and their charge rate was somewhere around $65 an hour. So that was all good. But then their materials, they weren't marking up their materials. They're only marking up their materials 10%. And so because they were doing 100% markup on the labor, but only 10% markup on the materials, they were basically causing their gross profit to be low, like 35%, because they weren't marketing it. They should have been marketing up their materials 100% because they were shooting for a 50% gross profit margin. And so we identified that, okay, that's your pricing issue. And they've, started implementing that right away and seeing those results of that increased gross profit margin. So basically that's what we do, is look through the financials, figure out, okay, what's working, what's not working, what can we do to dig in and figure out what the problem is.
That's crazy. What's like the typical starting point for companies that, begin using you? Obviously it depends on what they used before, but is there like an average of like, you can kind of have this expectation that a painting company's in this position before starting to work with you?
Most of the folks that start working with us are somewhere around 300,000 in revenue, and they want to grow their business to the next level. So there's kind of like different breakpoints. 300,000, you basically got to get other people to work on the job site. You got to get out of the job site, right? That's kind of the first breakpoint, getting completely off the job site. So you're just doing the production and sales. The next breakpoint is right around $1 million, somewhere in there, where you need a production manager or maybe a salesperson, if you don't like sales, to help you take that part of the business, either production management or the sales piece. And so that making that first big hire, we help folks, come up with a compensation plan for that first big hire, so that they're hitting their margins. Like, for example, production manager typically want to pay them about 5 to 7% of what they produce, depending on their exact role that they're doing. And a salesperson around 8% of what they close, typically. And so, helping come in with those compensation packages so you can get to the next break point, which is somewhere around 2 million or so, where you might have a production manager and a salesperson in place, but that it's just growing teams of each, and getting past that point. So Yeah, I would
Okay.
say, to answer your question, most folks are somewhere around 300,000 that we're working with. But we work with startups as well, all the way. Lar- the largest painting client we have is like about 10 million. So
Beast, absolute beast. And I'm sure on your end, um, the work you got to do for them, the expenses, the invoices, all that stuff is a lot more than someone who's just starting up, right? So, did he start with you a lot smaller, and you kind of help facilitate that growth just by like having the numbers and the percentages and everything just dialed in?
yeah, a lot of growth. Well, we have a painting business out of Arizona, does 8 million. They started with us at 4 million, so they've doubled in the last 2 years. Just getting a handle on their job costing and be able to price appropriately so they can actually profit, because they were hitting profitability issues. Um, but yeah, we have a lot of folks that break point at like 750 to 1 million, where you got to hire a production manager or a salesperson. A lot of folks start looking for help. I'm sure you work with a lot of painting businesses around that range as well. But helping them get to 2 million plus, we have a lot of folks that fall in that camp as well.
For sure, for sure. So you kind of got like introduced to the painting industry because of college works, and then you went off to serve, and then like you came back. Why did you say like I'm gonna do this for painters? Like what's Daniel's story, dude? Tell us.
Yeah, absolutely. So my dad was in the military as well, but he actually he was a partner in a painting business.
Nice,
Um, so he was doing like sales, and then his partner would do production management and production. And so I would, in the summers, I would work on the job site for my dad's painting company. And so that's how I learned about the trade. So I did that every summer during high school. And then when I went to college, I I wanted to run a business, and I saw this opportunity for College Works Painting. I was like, oh, this is perfect, because I kind of already knew painting, and I was getting my degree in accounting, and that it's kind of went from there. Got my degree in accounting, and then I was in the military. I went to basic training, went several deployments, and then when I came back around 2015, I was doing like tax preparation and stuff like that, working for other folks, and I was like, man, I could do something on my own. So I decided I wanted to open my own, accounting firm, and but I wanted to niche, because I didn't like the standard model of accounting where you just help just anybody that comes in the door, and it's just like craziness, like, because you have to relearn everything, because if you don't know their business, it's a little bit more difficult, and it's also not very valuable to the person that's seeing you if you don't know anything about their business and you're trying to advise them on their financials. So I just
absolutely,
went
absolutely.
with painting businesses, because I had some good experience with that. So and just learning that industry even deeper, and you know that way I can actually serve painting business owners a lot more effectively.
Love that. And dude, you were talking about some tax strategies. You feel free to share some of that stuff. Like
Yeah,
what's the most badass tax strategy that you've seen and you've implemented recently that's just like even blown your own mind?
the most badass. Let's see, the most badass. Um, so let's see. I think it's always cool to see a painting business owner like incorporate their family into the business, and then they can do a lot of cool things, like hiring your kids, getting your kids involved, uh, and being able to lower your tax liability, but also teach your kids the trade, and get them prepared for set them up for success in their life. I think that's cool. Like using your business to um, to make your family just more, more wealthy, and to set your kids up for success. So the tax strategy I'm referring to is basically hiring your kids, and the way it works is you would hire your kids like a W-2 employee, and you would pay them a reasonable wage, like you would pay someone else. Like you can't just pay them a ridiculous wage for not doing anything. Pay them a real wage for something they're actually doing for the business. And so you can start hiring your kids at about 7 is, before then you'll start breaking labor laws in the US. So 7 or older. And you can come up with age appropriate things for them to do. So like, for example, if they're 7, I mean, it might be something like putting stamps on envelopes, or maybe, doing some handwritten thank you notes or something like that, if they have good handwriting or legible handwriting. And then as they get older, maybe managing social media, maybe door knocking, or maybe even working on the job site if they're a teenager or something like that. So, coming up with a role for them, paying them a reasonable wage. And so the wages that you pay them is a tax deduction to your business. So your tax liability goes down because it's a deduction to your business. And so, because you're probably at a very high tax rate, or a lot higher than your kid at least. And so that reduces your taxes. And then your child doesn't pay taxes on that money up to about $14,000 for the year. So there's like some little nuances in there, but that's the basic idea, is basically transferring that money over to your kid, and they get it tax free, and you don't have to pay taxes on it. So
that's pretty cool, man. So we have clients that we're running ads for, where we have pictures of their family, and let's say it's like a 4-year-old in the picture. Could that client technically put that their son or daughter on as a W-2 employee, as like a model for advertising? Could that work?
This is a little
loophole.
Well, yeah. So some folks have done that, and you might get away with a little bit of that, like paying them a reasonable wage is key. Like you can, like, I pay my kids $100,000 because they're models, and something crazy like that. But if it's like a reasonable wage that you would pay somebody else to do a photo op or whatever, you should be okay. But yeah, I would definitely make sure you run that by a tax professional before you start getting a little crazy with the with that stuff, because the IRS does scrutinize like family type transactions, so related party transactions. So that every tax strategy has like a risk profile. So related party transactions for tax strategies, they're a little bit higher in risk. So you just got to make sure you dot your I's, cross your T's on those strategies.
Yeah.
But there's some really low hanging fruit tax strategies that I see a lot of folks are not taking advantage of. A common one for any businesses that are around 3 to 500. Actually, I had one that was like over 500,000 a couple of weeks ago, and he was a painting business that was taxed as a sole proprietor. So he just started his business. I think he had an LLC. He had an LLC set up, but the LLC by default in the US is taxed as a sole proprietorship on your personal tax return. So the problem with that is you have to pay self-employment tax on every dollar of profit, 15.3%. And so if you don't change that status and you start getting profit, bottom line profit of $70,000 or more, you start paying a lot of money in self-employment taxes. And so the thing to do in the US is to elect to be taxed as an S corp. So electing to be taxed as an S corp allows you to avoid a lot of those self-employment, that 15.3% self-employment tax. And in the case of the one I was referring to, by doing this S corp election, because he was gonna this year, I think he was gonna do $100,000 in bottom line profit, and by doing this S corp election for him, we were saving him like $7,000 in tax, I believe, by doing that S corp election. It's just filing some paperwork, really low risk strategy, and it's literally just filing some paperwork and doing an extra form each year, and he's saving $7,000 this year, but as he grows, it's going to save him even more over time.
Dude, that's crazy. That's great. And that's just available to anybody. They just gotta basically do the due diligence and find it. That's awesome, man.
Yep. Sorry about that. My
Oh, you're good. You're good. It's the
phone was
IRS
on.
calling you. So we heard that one. That's awesome though, dude. And what about for Canada? I mean, majority of our listeners are in the US,
Yeah.
right? But what about like that 15% that we have for our Canadian listeners, dude? What are some tax strategies they can implement?
I wish I knew. It's hard enough to know one country's, like, the only thing I know about Canada, and I basically know almost zero. I know a little bit about their HST, GST stuff, and like the fact that they're residential, like if you wanted to move to a different country, you don't have the worldwide tax net that the US does, which is kind of cool. So we were talking about before the podcast, like if you were to move to Nicaragua, you pretty much get out of the tax net of Canada, which is kind of cool. And if
You
you go
said
to
what? I get
territorial
out
tax
of it?
country,
What?
what's that?
I get out of the tax if I move to Nicaragua?
I would consult a Canadian tax expert because I am not one. But my understanding is that uh, in Canada, unlike the US is a worldwide taxation, meaning wherever you go in the world, the US is going to tax your income. You do get a deduction or a credit in some cases, like we used that foreign tax income deduction for our taxes when we were living in Nicaragua, which is super helpful. But we still had to pay U.S. taxes because we went over that deduction in terms of what we were making. But in Canada, my understanding is you guys don't even have that. So if you're not living in Canada, you don't have to pay Canadian taxes. So if you move to a different country, namely a country that does territorial tax, like Nicaragua or Panama or Malaysia, there's a few other ones. They don't tax. Like if you start a taco stand in Nicaragua, you'll get taxed on the money you're making there. But since you're serving clients outside of Nicaragua, that money doesn't ever go through Nicaragua. That money is not taxable in Nicaragua, and it wouldn't be taxable in Canada if you don't have, nothing's happening. You don't have nexus in Canada. It's all happening in the US, let's say. So that could potentially be a tax strategy for you, at least.
Dude,
Where
that's what I'm talking about. I'm going to Nicaragua, man. Hell yes. I don't even know taco stand out there, dude. I'm just gonna freaking move there, man. Oh, dude, that is awesome. I've been looking for some tax strategies. Like Canada stinks for tax, dude. Like we get taxed heavy, 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 heavy. And I'm in the worst province for it. I'm in Quebec. So like even just on anything, like just sales tax is like 14.975%. So you go and you buy a pack of gum for $1, you're paying $1.15. And you just chips make chunks. Over time it adds up, man. I'm just like, if I could have a tool that could like show me how much tax I've paid just like in the entirety of my 24 years here, I would like lose my mind, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's
If
heavy.
you hit any level of success in your business, the biggest expense you're going to have is taxes.
It's a good problem to have, though, I guess, right?
Yeah, it's better than the reverse problem where you're not making any income, so you don't have to pay tax. Yeah.
Amen. Amen. So I was looking at your website and I saw you have some like averages, like 45K average taxes saved, 78K average increase in profit, 8+ years serving painters. Like, dude, that is awesome, man, that you have those averages. So like you can like just confidently tell you like, or confidently say like when someone signs up with you, you're going to be able to help them save on taxes, build their business, do everything. Dude, that is badass, man.
Yeah. So there's certain, so to answer your question about the stats, yes, on average, because we track this closely, the folks that sign up with us, on average, their net profit increases by 78,000 the 12 months after they sign up with us compared to the 12 months before they sign up with us. And sometimes people ask, well, what are you guys doing to increase the net profit? Well, if you just kind of think, take an analogy. So if you have two people that are trying to lose weight, one person weighs themselves once a month, and then the other person is weighing themselves every day. Who do you think is going to lose more weight over time?
Person who tracks their numbers.
Yeah, one that's doing their weighing themselves every day, right? So it's just that we're making sure they know their numbers, where they need to improve, identifying those constraints in their business so that they can focus on that to get to the next level. And then the other one is the $44,000 in taxes saved. First thing we do when someone signs up is we go back 3 years on their taxes and see where can we save them money over the last 3 years. So we pull their IRS transcripts, we get a limited power of attorney, and we dig into their tax situation as soon as they sign up. So because we're trying to get an ROI as quick as possible so that they can, basically get their money back. We want to make sure our services are paying for itself, or even giving a return on investment. So that's the first thing we do. Usually off the bat, we're saving folks between $5,000 and $50,000 in that first time period when they sign up.
Insane.
Yeah, and the caveat with the tax savings is obviously if they're not profitable, if they're not making any money, then you can't really save somebody taxes if they're not making any money. The exception might be unless they had penalties that we can abate for them. We do help folks with like penalty abatements and working with the IRS on installment plans and stuff like that. But yeah.
That's sick, dude. That is so cool, man. So like you've been serving just painters for the last 8 years, just for bookkeeping.
Yep.
Dude, you have probably so much knowledge out there compared to like just like a painter using just like a regular, bookkeeper. They're at a disadvantage compared to you, man, because like you have all of those understandings. Like you said, like the numbers, the metrics. You're talking about hiring a PM. Like if just a regular bookkeeper, like if they're serving, many different businesses, not just painters, like dude, they won't have the information and kind of support that you and your team can provide. I love that, man. That is so cool. That is so freaking cool. And you were at the PCA on Espanol, right?
Yes. See,
how was that, dude? I saw you. You're with one of our clients, Angel.
Yes. Yep.
And Hell. Yeah. Very cool, man. He's a good dude. How was his speak? I heard he like absolutely smashed it.
Yes, he did. I didn't. I'm not a fluent Spanish speaker. Actually, C is probably the extent of my Spanish prowess. But I was there to watch him speak. He seemed super confident, and people seemed to enjoy it. So, in my eyes, he killed it. And from what other people said, that he did a great job. But yeah, he was awesome. But yeah, the event was great. I mean, it was a great turnout. 150 plus people were there, and there was a lot of camaraderie. Good event. It was awesome.
That is so cool. So you didn't pick up any Spanish in Nicaragua?
Un poquito. I mean, I was mostly talking to painting contractors in the U.S. I mean,
fair enough.
But yeah, I can effectively get a taxi, tell them where I need to go, order some food.
Dude, what else could you want? You know what I mean? All the boxes are checked there, dude. You get a taxi, go get some food, come back, bro. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's about it. Yeah,
that's awesome, man. And then was the last, because we met each other at the expo in February. Was that the first expo you went to, or have you gone to ones before?
The first one I went to was in 2017.
Oh wow, nice.
Yeah, and but that one was the best one that I've been to. It was just a great turnout, really good classes. I mean, outstanding presentations that I sat in on. It's just a really high energy event. So yeah, it was great.
Do you think it's because maybe it was like a smaller audience back then compared to now, and it was just more of like an intimate setting?
You mean the PCA Expo, this one compared to previous ones?
Your first one that you went to. You said 2017 was the best one you went to, or you meant
No. I'm sorry. The most recent one, the 2024 Expo, was the best that I've been to.
Oh, okay. Yeah, dude, that was my first ever one. It blew my mind. Like my expectations, like were just blown out of the water, dude. Like it was so freaking fun. Like it was just cool because, like, I mean, you get what I mean. Of like, we run our businesses fully remote, and we are obviously our clients are both painters, right? And I am sometimes envious of like how they could just put their team together and bond together and do all these fun activities and stuff in
Mhm.
person that like we have to fly everybody up for and do this and that, you know? So it's like, it's one of the grass is always greener kind of things. So just being able to like hang out with clients and connect with them more on an intimate level, like in person, for me was just like one of the best, things that I got out of the PCA itself. But obviously, all the education, the networking, like we met each other there, all that stuff. Like it was just a really, really cool thing, and I'm so fired up for Colorado.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you went
it
to that
was
one too, right? I hope.
yeah,
Let's
of
go.
course. Yeah, I will be there. I'm going actually to all the PCA events this fall. So if you're going to a PCA event, I will be there for the foreseeable future. I've signed up for everything.
How you getting into woman in paint?
I just wear a wig.
There you go, dude. There you go. Can't assume, man.
They, yeah. I signed up for it, sponsored it. I mean, if they kick me out, they kick me out. But yeah, I'm going.
Not going down without a fight. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Colorado's gonna be awesome, man. It's gonna be so cool, dude. Like, we have so many clients down there, and just so many clients going, man. It's like it's pretty cool. Did you get a lot of clients from the first expo?
The first one in 2017.
Oh, sorry. I mean, the most recent one.
Oh, okay.
Like
Yes, it was the most productive as far as like new clients. That was the biggest event ever that we've ever done. I mean, it especially compared to the previous year. I mean, previous year was like dead. You know, it would just, and then this one was just out of the water. So it was very productive. Met a lot of great folks. Yeah, so it was really, they have a high bar for this coming year. So they did a great job.
they're gonna smash it though, man. I feel like they
Yeah,
just get better and better and better every single year, man. The
yeah.
board is so great there. But dude, I actually just remembered you were giving out books at the expo, right?
Hmm.
It was Profit First and Traction.
Yeah, Profit First, Traction, and a couple other ones. Yep.
Are those books like you would recommend to, like, let's say someone's not using a bookkeeper right now, or they are using a bookkeeper, but they're just trying to like maybe get a little bit more understanding. Like, are
Mhm.
those the two books you would recommend to like our listeners and stuff, or are there other ones?
Yeah, Profit First is good for like a if you're a more novice business owner, um, or I mean, it's really great for anybody. But I would typically give that one first if you're starting out, because Profit First gives you a way to track your money in a more accessible way. Because looking at financial statements can be intimidating, and I'm sure you didn't start your painting business because you want to look at financial statements all the time. So Profit First is basically a way where you can manage your money in a way that is like really straightforward, where you basically start into different bank accounts and put money aside for different things into different bank accounts. So you can, because everyone or most business owners have this heuristic of just if they need to make a purchase for their business, they look at their bank account balance to see if they can afford it. So it takes that heuristic and just builds off of it and just says, okay, you start different bank accounts for different purposes, like one for payroll, one for your own profit, one for your taxes, one for your operating expenses, etc. And so you have a handful of bank accounts with money in it, so you can identify, okay, do I have money set aside for this thing? So yeah, Profit First is good for kind of business owners starting out and struggling with managing money. And then Traction is great for if you're trying to really grow your business. Like maybe you're at 500K or between 500K and 1 million, and you need to actually build a team. Traction is great for giving you the operating system to everything you know for how to run a meeting, what information to track, how to set your core values for your business. It gives you the instructions on how to run your business. Like it's a great book. I actually bring it with me everywhere I go because
I
it's
actually
just
have
like,
you gave me a copy actually at the
oh, awesome.
expo. Actually, you gave me a Profit First, and you gave Traction to one of my clients, Spencer Hayward, Swift Hand Painting.
Yeah.
And I already read Profit First. I traded him for it, and he
Yeah.
already read it too, but he didn't know we traded. We just like accidentally swapped bags, And then he was so upset because I was loving it. I was telling him, dude, this is such a good book. You got to get it. But
Yeah.
Traction is awesome, man. It's about like the EOS, like the entrepreneurial operating system and stuff, right? And
Yeah.
dude, it's such a good book.
Yes.
Such a good book. So
Just,
those two you would recommend?
oh yeah, for sure. Those are two great books.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. What's one of the best books that you have ever read, like all time? Not just business oriented, just like all time.
Great question. So, there's a lot. I've been reading a lot of biographies recently. Jeff Bezos, The Everything Store was really good. Just the way that Jeff Bezos thinks, like he is a super clear thinker, and he's obviously thinking about business a lot. So there's a lot of nuggets in that book. That even for financial, like the way that Amazon handles like folks struggling with cash flow. Sometimes they see that they're profitable on their profit and loss, but they're struggling with cash flow, and it might be because you're not managing your cash right. So what Jeff Bezos did was, because Amazon was running negative profits for years. Like he went on the Jay Leno show in like 2000, and Jay Leno was making fun of Jeff Bezos. This is back before Jeff Bezos was like a ripped buff dude, like that looks awesome. He was like a nerdy, computer guy in 2000. And Jay Leno was like making fun of him because Amazon was just losing millions every year. And he's like, how are you still in business? You guys are losing millions every year. But the thing that Jeff Bezos was doing was he was managing his cash flow like really, really well. And so what he did was, when you go to Amazon, you buy something, you have to pay immediately so that he would get his cash up front. And then he didn't have to pay his vendors, like the people who put the whatever goods on Amazon. He wouldn't have to pay them until like 30 days later. So he would get the cash first in the door, and then he wouldn't have to pay anybody out for 30 more days. So he was always cash heavy. Like and that's the whole game with cash flow, is get paid faster and pay others more slowly. And so you can put that idea into your painting business by taking a higher deposit. Take a lot of the folks that we work with are taking 50% deposits, get that money down as quick as possible. And then, slow payments to your vendor. So set up a Sherwin-Williams account, put it your materials on credit to extend that for 30 days. So you can do the same things. So folks that are struggling with cash flow, those are the kind of tactics that you would want to look at. But yeah, that biography was great. There's read a Winston Churchill biography that was really awesome. It's just, not all of it's like exactly specific to business, but there's always ideas that you can kind of pick up by reading biographies. So I read a lot of those.
Dude, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, we see like that cash flow issue a lot with clients before they start with us, because like a lot of people rely on GCs or like, commercial work, stuff like that. And usually those are like net 60, net 90. So like on paper, they're profitable, but like in terms of actual cash flow, like money in the bank, it's almost non-existent, right? Because they're still waiting on that money to come in that they invoice for.
Right. Yeah. So what's happening to those folks is that they're basically being the bank for the general contractors. Those are like the worst situations to be in. So
it's so brutal, dude. When your client says that, it's just like you feel so bad, man. But yeah, it's just unfortunate.
Yeah, they got to get better terms, like either renegotiate terms so they get paid more frequently, or you can set up terms with your vendors. So like, if you're in that situation, here's a couple of things you can do. So obviously set up vendor accounts with like Sherwin-Williams or Benjamin Moore stores, whatever, so that you have a credit line. And then what you can do is obviously put the materials on credit, but then also use a credit card, a business credit card, to pay down the balance on the due date. So that extends your credit interest free for another 30 days. So it goes from 30 days interest free to 60 days interest free when you put the balance on your credit card. Also take a look at how often you're paying your employees and your subcontractors. So if you're using subcontractors, try to negotiate so that they don't get paid until you get paid. That way, you're not having to float that labor cost. If they don't get paid until you get paid, that will help your cash flow a lot. And if you're using employees, try to pay your employees as if you're struggling with cash flow, as infrequently as you can. That is feasible. If you're in this situation where you're really struggling with cash flow, this would be the last thing I would look at. But paying your employees every week is very hard on your cash flow, especially if you're not getting paid for 30 or 60 days from a general contractor. So if you can pay your employees every 2 weeks or twice a month, that would, it doesn't sound like a big change, but that will greatly improve your cash flow.
For sure. It gives you more time, right? Even, yeah, bi-weeklies would be 26 payments in a year compared to bi-monthlies would then be, 24, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it just, improves the cash flow there for sure. Yeah, because we have so many, like, obviously what we do is more like Facebook ads, right? And primarily you're not going to get that many commercial jobs on Facebook. Like, you'll get some here and there and that, but it's going to be primarily residential. So just like the increase in cash flow that our clients obtain because of that, like deposit before you actually start the work, is just incredible. Because like you said, 50% and you haven't even started the work, but you have that money, you can reinvest that or pay your guys, and you just kind of get that traction going. So that's the unfortunate thing about commercial or working with GCs. It's like, it's easier to land those types of things, but it's just you will struggle a lot at the end unless you have the right foundation that it's built on, because of those terms that they set into place.
Yeah. In mix, like, so we have a lot of clients that they'll do some of the GC work, but then they'll mix in a lot of the residential to help with the cash flow. That also, like you alluded to, that helps a lot. There are some states that limit the deposit you can take as a contractor, like California and Massachusetts.
It's like $250, right, or something like that.
Yeah, for California, it's like up to $1,000 or 10% of the project, whichever is lower, I believe, is the rule. And then Massachusetts, you can only take 33% down, up to 33% down. So the workaround for those states is to basically take the maximum you can down, whatever that is per the rule, and then do a progress payment as soon as you start the job to get another third. If you're in Massachusetts, like 33%, 33%, 33%, or something like that, or so that you're getting more money quicker, because the whole game with cash flows, get paid faster, slow down payments to others.
What's a state that's like, it's got the most complicated tax laws?
Complicated. I mean, it comes to mind. That's just, they have high taxes and a lot of rules. So I would put my vote in for California, but it's just like every state has their nuances. You just got to sometimes pay attention to. That's always good to have a tax professional kind of make sure you're doing things the right way. Especially, we talked about the S corp tax strategy. There's a couple states where you need to be aware, like in Tennessee, for example, on how they deal with LLCs, and that you need to just make sure you run that by a tax professional, so they give you a heads up on what's going on there. But it's less about the complexity as it is about just some states have these random rules that you just don't know about. Like North Carolina, just had a client the other day. If you have an I-10 contractor, which an I-10 contractor would be like someone who is working in the United States, and they don't have a social security number. And so they get a I-10, which is an individual tax identification number from the IRS, so that they can pay U.S. taxes, but they don't have a social security number, so they're not a U.S. citizen. So I-10 contractors, in North Carolina, you have to withhold 4% on payments to them So it's just like a random rule. Nobody else does that, but North Carolina. So it's just like things like that. It's good to have, a tax professional to help you avoid those pitfalls, but also identify the things like, hey, you could do this and save big.
Yeah. Yeah. No, even California is a weird one. Even on advertising, you have to have like their license in the actual ad itself in order to advertise. Like just small things like that. Like California is complicated, man. What
I didn't
about
know
like
that.
one that's like more like a wild, wild west? Just like not many rules that you get a client there. You're like, oh, dude, we could really milk this thing.
I mean, it's always good to have like those tax-free states. So I'm in a tax-free state, Florida. It's income, I should say income tax-free, because there's still taxes here. It's just your income is not taxed. So Texas is another one. There's a couple more out there that I think Tennessee is becoming income tax. They're just changing their laws.
Delaware, is Delaware one?
I don't think so. My tax director is way more spun up on it than I am. He's like super focused. He's like, his name's Richard. He's like super dialed in. He knows all the things. Like he's like an encyclopedia when it comes to this stuff.
Dude, shout out to Richard.
Yeah. I don't know how he does it. But yeah, the income tax free states are always nice because you don't have to pay income tax on your taxes. The thing you got to look out for is like property tax. Usually they raise things like property taxes. So like in Texas, their property taxes are like a little bit higher than average. So you kind of have to weigh the pros and cons of, those different tax situations. And if you're trying to move to a state with a favorable tax situation.
Yeah. Is there a state where you have like just like absolutely slammed with clients? Like, is there like a specific state that just naturally people are just, gravitated towards and signing up with you? Like for us, it's Florida and California. We have so many clients there. And Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Massachusetts a lot too.
Oh, really? Massachusetts?
Yeah. And a lot of them are Brazilian. It's interesting.
Huh.
Brazilian from Massachusetts. And then, we have a lot of Florida clients. Like Florida's stacked and Cali's absolutely stacked. It's weird.
Yeah. Yeah. California, for sure. There's a lot of folks we have from California, Florida as well. And then Texas. I think there was just three. I think it more or less maps to the population. Exception being New York. We have a few folks from New York, but I don't know. Not many folks. We have a couple people from Massachusetts, so you must have gone into some niche there because we only have a couple folks from Massachusetts.
Yeah. Well, I think my name, like I'm not Brazilian, but the name Lucas is Brazilian. So I think that just like resonates a little bit better. They're like, awesome. Oh, it must be Brazilian. Nope, I'm Norwegian, but we'll get you some leads.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
do you have to change my name? What's that?
Sorry, what'd you say? Sorry, I cut you off there.
Oh, I said I'll have to change my name to Lucas.
Dude, you should
get in on the Massachusetts market.
It's a good name. It's a very good name. Yeah. Do you have clients in Canada at all?
Yeah, we have a handful of clients in Canada. We don't do taxes in Canada. We do just the bookkeeping side of things.
Makes sense.
And so we help them know their numbers and what they mean, but they got to have a tax professional handle the tax side of things.
Makes sense. Yeah. Do you have any in Montreal, out of curiosity? Because that's where I'm from.
I don't think so. I'm not sure though. I think we have, because it seems like we've had somebody there, but I don't think we have them anymore.
Montreal, Quebec, dude. Our rules are weird here, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. I might do, who knows, by the time I post this podcast, it might be in Nicaragua.
You'll feel right at home. It's just like living in Canada, except it's really hot there because there's so many Canadians there already.
Dude, let's go, man. They're all taking advantage of that. I gotta get on that. They're there for a reason, man. Awesome, dude. So when's the next expo or conference you're going to, like for the PCA?
I'm going to an event next week. Jason Phillips.
Oh, you're going? Me too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I remember you. Yeah. So I'm going to that in Texas, and then the next thing I think I think it's Women in Paint is the next thing in October. But then they got PCA residential later on in October, and then PCA commercial in November, I believe. And there's also going to Mike Orr Hickman's event in October, mid-October, and Service Legend at the end of October.
Very
So
nice.
a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, dude.
And then you have an event, I think, coming up too, right?
Yeah,
PaintCon,
November.
Andy Elliott.
Yeah, and Andy's coming. Jason Phillips is coming. Dude, so many big people are coming. But dude, you should come.
Yeah,
Actually,
yeah.
we could talk off the podcast. We could talk about it, but it would be awesome to have you there because I think you could add a ton of value and benefit to everybody that comes there, and just like, I think it'd just be awesome, man.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. How did you get linked up with Andy Elliott?
So actually, he was on the Contractor Impact webinar that Tanner threw. Tanner from Drip Jobs. He did a webinar back in end of July, and Andy spoke before me. And then there was also one of my good buddies, Joel Mercado. He was speaking at the Impact too. And the coaches, Andy Elliott's coaches, reached out to Joel and got Joel coming out. Joel actually just ripped a podcast with Andy Elliott down in Arizona, which is really cool. And Joel basically made the intro, and we just worked something out, and he's coming down. So he's coming. Yeah, he's coming on this Saturday, and then he's doing, for the people that get like our CEO tickets, he's doing like a private Q&A, and then he's also coming to our CEO dinner as well. And then after that, we're doing like a big boat party. And by boat, it's not like a yacht by any means. It's like a stern wheeler, like a Christopher Columbus type boat. But dude, it's gonna be so cool. We're gonna have like a DJ, open top, all that stuff, man. It's gonna be super fun.
That's crazy. That sounds like a lot of fun. That's great.
Yeah. You got to come, brother. You got to come. We just got sponsored by Sherwin for it too, which is really nice.
Oh, that's awesome. That's big.
It is big. Yeah.
They're always spending some good there's some good events and putting some money down to make things awesome. So that's awesome.
Yeah, man. So dude, we could talk definitely after the podcast about it, but I'd love to have you out there. But brother, let's have you give what's one tip for any listener, whether they're in, Florida or Texas or even Canada, like what's one tip you would give to them regarding their financials, whether that's on the bookkeeping side, the tax side, or something that's just like one piece of advice that they can leave this podcast with and just go and like execute?
Yes. So I would say know your margins, and specifically your gross profit to CAC ratio. So gross profit, we talked about that, right? What's left over after you produce the work. And then what is that? So let's say you're at 45%. What is that ratio? What is that number 45 compared to your customer acquisition cost? So your customer acquisition cost would be like your marketing plus your sales cost. So what it costs to close a lead and making them into a customer. So your marketing costs, what you pay Lucas, plus what you pay your salesperson commission, that's your customer acquisition cost. So keep that ratio of gross profit to customer acquisition cost to 3-to-1. And if you do that, that should pretty much solve your profitability issues, and you should be golden. And so you should be just making money, and just a matter of managing your cash flow and managing your tax situation from there. So like just to throw some numbers out there, like 45% gross profit at least, and then like a 15% customer acquisition cost would be great. You could always improve on that, but those would be some targets I would recommend.
Love that. And what's like a good GP? You think 45%, you said?
45% or better. I mean, the top 20% of painting businesses are hitting 50% or higher, the ones that we work with. But 45% is it's a decent one to start out with. It depends on where you are. If you're already at 45%, definitely shoot higher, because folks can do 50, 55, 60, even 65% gross profit. So, I mean, it's definitely feasible to get that. But if you're not at 45%, get to 45%, and then get your gross profit to customer acquisition ratio to 3 to 1, and then just improve it to there, get it to 50%, and then 55%.
Love that. Love it. What's the absolute highest percentage you've ever seen? And like, let's say even like a single month from one of your clients.
Oh, just a single month? I don't know. I don't know over a single month, but I would say maybe over like a quarter, which I think is because a single month you could have just fluctuations and stuff. Like
Fair
it
enough.
could
Yeah.
be like a one-off. But for an established business that's like doing $1 million plus, and they've managed like 65% is like over a quarter. I've seen that once before. That's very crazy high. Usually the top performers are somewhere around 55%. That's like really, really good. Sustaining that 55%.
Love that. And if other companies are hitting it, everyone who's listening to this podcast can hit it too. So love that, man. Appreciate you. And if someone's looking to get some tax planning, some tax consulting, or some bookkeeping going, how can they reach you, Daniel?
Yeah, if you go to bookkeepingforpainters.com, you can click schedule a consultation, and we'll hook you up. And if you want a free business evaluation, we do a couple free services to help folks out. So if you want to understand what your painting business is worth, you can go to bookkeepingforpainters.com and go to free-business-valuation, and I'll provide you the link. And you can basically sign up to get a free business evaluation. We'll actually go through your business numbers and tell you how much your business is worth and what are some improvements you can make in your business to get to improve your value over the next 12 months. So that is a no-cost service that you can sign up for, and we'd love to help you out.
Badass, dude. So that's bookkeepingforpainters.com. For everyone listening, I'll put the link below in the description, and make sure to get your free business valuation and book a call with Daniel. Awesome. Cool, man. Well, thank you so much, Daniel. Appreciate you and everything you shared today. And I'll see you next week in Texas at Jason's event.
See you then. Thanks, Lucas.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.